didn't move back here until the end of August. No, the beginning of August.
Okay.
I
know we were just surprised. Because I thought you were just here for a visit.
Yeah. I think I moved back here the beginning of August. The end of July, beginning of August is what it was. Because I remember once the decision was made for me to come back, I had to find a place to live here. And so I was like on the internet trying to find places to rent. But by this time, like I said, with me, I left the job down there because it just wasn't working out for me. Yeah, financially, I wasn't making any money. I was losing money. So I, had to find a place here, and it didn't dawn on me at first, that I needed to at least keep a job, because when you're trying to find a place to live, you have to show proof of employment and things of that nature. Well, guess what? Didn't have that anymore. And so everybody was giving me a hard time, in reference to being able to pay my rent and everything. And so I was able to find one person who was willing to work with me if I would pay for 1 full year in advance, because it wasn't a problem of me paying it, because I was even asking, I'll pay 6 months in advance, I'll pay a year in advance. But a lot of people didn't want to work with me on that. But one guy did. His name is Lee Benchinger Realty Group, I think is what it's called. He allowed me to rent lease a condo, one of his condos in Canton, Michigan. If I would be willing to pay for my first year in advance of rent.
Child, I couldn't pay nothing for a year. Well, maybe my phone bill I could do for a year in advance, but living. So God was still good.
He was working it out. So I did that, and I could have stayed with my mom, but with everything that I was going through at the time, I just needed to be with myself. I really didn't want a lot of people in my ear. I did not want people, especially my mom, because she's looking at me every day. I did not want her to see the hurt and everything that I was going. I just didn't want that stress on her. I didn't want that stress on nobody. So for me, I felt like being in my own place would give me an opportunity to do whatever I needed to do to, heal and to get better and, move forward. And unfortunately, that was not the case, because I was lost. I just, everything that I had, I won't say I lost my confidence, but I lost my hope. I lost my drive. I lost everything. When I first came back here, I'm about to get my real estate license. I'm about to do this. I'm about to do that. I'm about to do this. I was really motivated, but it's once I got here and got settled, it was just everything just left me. It was I just existed, and I've always been the kind of person where just existing is not an option for me. I am a purposeful woman. I'm going to be successful. That's always been my mindset, but I was not. The wind was just swept from up under my feet. I was just down. I was woman down. And for a whole year, I did not work, and it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was because I didn't have the motivation or the interest or the desire to. I had just lost everything, and I don't even know how to describe the feeling of feeling lost. It's just I've never been in this place, and I wouldn't wish this on anybody, to not know, what to do, know the word of God. I know how to encourage myself. I know to pray. I know to do everything. I lost everything. I lost everything to the extent where it was just nobody knew how much I was hurting. So I became good at, putting on this facade where you thought everything was okay when everything was not okay. I was just hurting so bad that it just was not funny, and I think when it got to a point of me realizing, okay, I need to do something for myself. I did, get myself back in church where we got married. And I just, again, I just still, it was a process for me. And I wasn't flowing. I wasn't feeling the way I used to felt. It's I felt like I lost myself. I got lost, and I didn't know how to find my way back is the best way I can explain it. And I went through that whole process, and I just remember, being at my mom's house one day, and I was just sitting there when I finally got settled, and I was so angry, and I just broke down and I started crying. I just fell in my mom's arms. I fell in her arms, and she just held me, And she was just like, it's going to be okay, Tasha, you're going to be okay. She was like, you're home now. And she just held me, and I just literally cried like a baby, because I just, for the first time I was letting somebody know, like what I was going through. And I just remember her saying, she said, Tasha, I hate him. She said, and I've never heard my mom talk like this. She's like, I hate him. She said, I hate him for everything that he has done to you. She said, everything that he would say about everybody else, he was actually talking about himself. He talked so bad about all of his siblings. Everybody got issues except for him. His kids. I remember one day he has a son who was incarcerated, and I would always talk to him because it was important for me to have my own relationship with his kids. And one of his sons who's incarcerated, I will never forget, one day I was talking to him on the phone, and he said to me, and it was how he said it. He said, "Why my dad?" And when he said, the way he said it, I was kind of, puzzled. And so I found myself trying to explain to him, like why I chose his dad, And I told Calvin about it. I'm like, because his son name is Calvin too. I told him about it, and I'm like, Calvin was like, why my dad? I was like, it was how he said it. He was like, I don't want to hear that mess. Don't tell me about that, And so he kind of sort of just blew it off, and I didn't think, anything else about it. But then it was just like, I never forget, his brother that's above him said to me one day, what did he say? It was something along the lines of, he should have warned me or something like that. Why would you say something like that to me after the fact? You should have warned me before I walked down that aisle and I said I do. You should have warned me then. Don't tell me, and then you say it in a jokingly way. It's not funny. This is my life. Right. What I went through could have been prevented had you told me up front that your brother has issues, And so it was like after folks started learning, that our marriage was on the rocks, it's like everybody started talking, and I'm like, well, why didn't somebody think enough of me to say something to me, before I got to this place? I don't care if it was the day of my wedding. Pull my shirt tail. Don't let me get married to somebody who is not healthy or good for me. Right. His siblings shares that he's a good actor. Like, he can cry at the drop of a pen and make you think that, his whole world has ended. Wow. How he is, a big liar. Just dishonest all the way around. He's a master manipulator. This is his reputation. People that, in church, people that knew him when he was a kid, because they all grew up together. Yeah, they were like, yeah, he's always been this way. Why didn't somebody tell me
about that background?
Why didn't somebody tell me? For you to say he's always been this way, no one thought to say something to me. But
time. Yeah, it's like, don't even say it after the fact, because sometimes you do hope the best and you hope people change, but now when it does go south, don't now say to me, this was sending him off.
Yes, why? Why would you not tell me up front? And then, like, his one brother, his eldest brother, once, he found out that, Calvin just up and left, he started reaching out for me. He started by texting me saying, like, good morning and things of this nature. Okay. So I thought, initially I was like, okay, well, he must be trying to look out for me. And so he was just like texting me every day now, like different sayings and things of that nature, And so I remember us having a conversation one day, and he was, like, really coming down on his brother, and I was, just talking to him about the experience and everything, and he was like, yeah, God's gonna get him, and he even said to me, I was telling him about the intimacy part, how he tried to say, that my intimacy wasn't good, and that's why he wasn't, having ejaculation, and I was like, he's lying, because he did, at some point, maybe not all the time, but he was like, he says Calvin is a lie. He was like, he's had that issue for years. That's why he said it's a joke around us that he takes Cialis,
Oh, see, it all comes out.
Yes, and so, but it's not a joke for me.
Not at all.
It's not a joke for me. So at the end of the day, again, y'all knowing all this stuff, somebody should have said something to me. Yeah. Y'all talking to me about it after the fact, when y'all should have had upfront conversations with me about everything that goes on with him. Like the fact that I'm his fourth wife when I didn't know that.
At this point, you're back home now. talk to your bishop. You made it back home, and you've had that release moment with your mama. Mamas are the best.
They always do it.
Mamas are the best.
You know what?
Release with your mama.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the best. I mean, like I said, the experience overall and all of the information, like after the fact that I started.
I had my phone on myself.
The information after the fact that I started experiencing was like, frustrating for me because I felt like a lot of what I experienced could have been prevented had someone thought enough of me to say, hey, you need to think twice about this. But that never happened for me. So instead of that, I went through just a lot of emotional roller coaster ride for the entire 3.5 years that we were married.
And the thing about it too is that even though you're now telling your story about what you went through, we don't realize how much in the moment you don't see any of it.
Exactly.
Because you're just like, hey, we haven't had sex today. You don't think about that, or hey, he did that then, but you don't put all the pieces together. So even though sometimes and read on a story, people have to realize it's not that she knew any of this in those moments.
Right.
It's thinking back like, wow, I had this whole thing happen and I didn't even realize I was in it until I was literally almost out of it. Yeah. So that's when you start thinking like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I just started, things just started popping up, like, oh, so this is why this was happening, and it's like, even today I can think about things, and I'm like, wow, and I just thank God that He gave me, the strength to be able to pull through, even though it has been a hard journey. And so like I said, for me, again, the reason that I wanted to do this is because if what I share can help somebody else out, I wanted to do that because, again, I went into a relationship not knowing all that I would encounter, but there were others who were fully aware and did not take the time out to tell me anything at all. But then after the fact is when I started hearing and learning a lot about him, and by that time, it was like too late. And at the point in time that I started learning a lot was when he started trying to paint a negative picture of me in reference to the breakdown of our marriage, when it was actually him all along. And so every time someone would approach me with something, I had to say, no, it's not me, but it is him, and I have the proof to show it. I would always say that, because he is such a good liar that if you don't have proof to back up what you know with him, then folks will believe him. So I had to, for me, I've always been the type of person that documents anything and everything anyway. So for me, to be able to show proof was like a no-brainer because it's just in my personality to document, whatever it is I'm working with or dealing with. And that's like work-wise, but fortunately it worked with me or for me in my personal life. And so with that being said, being frustrated with everybody coming to me after the fact saying stuff, not just, his siblings, but people who knew him growing up in church, and saying the same things about him. It wasn't even an embarrassing thing for me. My heart started grieving for him because I'm like, this dude got issues, And so, through the entire process, I never spoke ill of him, and I'm not even trying to speak ill of him today.
It's just what you went through. It was your truth.
Exactly. And my point of this, again, conversation is if it helps somebody, I hope it does. But I remember my bishop saying to me one day, because he and my first lady were very upset, with everything that I experienced. My bishop had even attempted to make, some time to speak with Calvin directly, but Calvin would not follow through on anything that he agreed that he would do with my bishop in reference to our marriage. And then I remember my bishop telling me one day that he had a strong conversation with Calvin, telling him that he's headed for a strong fall, because you cannot start a new relationship when you are married to a woman, or did you marry? You can't, be involved with somebody else when you are married. And he said Calvin, was very disrespectful with him, and they had a few, exchange of words or whatever. And I just remember my bishop saying to me that, because what I said to him was that, just got to pray and believe God for his salvation, because that was what I said to him. in that conversation said, I said, I just still pray and believe God for his salvation. And my bishop said to me, he was like, wow. He's like, out of everything that you have been through, out of everything that he has done to you, you still can pray and believe God for his salvation. I'm like, that's the way that God made me. There's nothing else I can do or say about it. Sorry, this is my mom. So, my bishop was just like, I just can't believe, that you are being that strong where you can even say that you are still praying and believing God for his salvation. And my bishop actually told me, he said, God is going to bless you. He's going to reward you, for the position that you have taken. And I do believe that. And so, from that point on, I just, it was just one day at a time for me. One day at a time. This year, March 27th is when that damn time came to a head, which is when I was finally able to finalize my divorce. That wasn't an easy process in itself because he gave me the hardest time in reference to even being served. He refused to be served via a server. He refused to be served via certified mail. He refused to go to the post office and pick up the certified mail. He refused to do everything. And so, it got to the point where I started texting and sending emails, just documenting the entire exchange, because if I had to use proof that I've attempted this to serve him and he's just not being, cooperative, then that would be, what I would utilize for the judge to grant the divorce. But unfortunately, Oakland County does, for whatever reason, they gave me the hardest time. And I remember the week before the divorce was to be finalized, the court attorney called me and basically told me that if I showed up to court on that Wednesday, March 27th, and without his signature on those divorce papers, that the judge was going to dismiss my case, and I would have to refile all over again, and they were going to have to get the Oakland County Sheriff's Department involved. Well, at this point, it was just like, okay, I didn't know what to do. I just knew at this point, I just wanted this to be over with. It's gone on too long. He said that he wanted a divorce, and so because I didn't believe in divorce, I initially waited to allow him to do his thing. But because it didn't happen, and because I could not move forward in my life, I finally made a decision to do it. And like I said, even in trying to do so, he just gave me the hardest time. But when I called him and I told him what the court attorney said in reference to to the divorce being finalized, he was like, I just think that this is what did he say? I think this is fraudulent activity, and I was like, it's not fraudulent activity. I'm like, you can this yogi. So anyway, he was saying that he believed that it's fraudulent activity in reference to the divorce. So I said to him, well, you can call the court's attorney, the person that called me, I can give you the number. You can call them yourself. He was like, I don't need to talk to nobody, I'm like, well, again, if the judge has to dismiss this case when I go on March the 27th, I will have to refile again. And they said that the Oakland County Sheriff's Department will be involved. And so he was like, all right, just send me the papers. I'll get them back to you. So I'm like, I need them back by Monday morning because that's when I was told to have the information back to the judge, and so you better believe Monday morning, them papers was in my email, signed and dated, by him. Okay. So again, like I said, it was the entire process was a crazy process, and I'll just never forget that particular day was a day that I had to run to because everything wasn't in order. I initially filed for the divorce in September of last year, and it could have been something that could have been finalized within 30-45 days if he was cooperating. Well, because I did it on my own, I did not hire a lawyer. There is a window that you have to work with in reference to finalizing your divorce. Well, I thought I had met that deadline by having information, submitted before that deadline, but I guess, it wasn't. So they had actually dismissed my case and I wasn't aware of it. So I had to go down and had to fight for my case to be reinstated without me having to do everything all over again. So it was a major nightmare. But I'm gonna tell you, what helped my case was that every text message and email that I had from him where he was being very nasty, uncooperative, basically saying that he takes nothing from no one. He's not taking no papers from nobody. He's not going anywhere to get any papers. Just everything. I had all of it documented, and I submitted all of that with my divorce papers. papers as a part of my package, which the judge saw it. And I mean, when I went before her, it was all of not even a minute, I don't think, where I had to raise my right hand and be sworn in and ask me a few questions, and then she was like, "Your divorce is granted." You know, so and it's like, yes. I'm telling you, I mean, I was shaking. So I mean, I tried to keep my composure together. You know, walking out of that courtroom and walking to my car and everything is just like I was just, you know, shaking, trying to get to the car. I could have ran track, you know, as fast as I was trying to get out of there. But when I got to the car, I just broke down and started crying, you know, because I had such a relief, a burden lifted off of me. I have no more attachments with him whatsoever, and that was so important to me. I just felt like my whole life was just taken away from me, and I'm having to like rebuild all over again, because when I tell you, he took everything from me. He took everything, and I honestly feel like because of the kind of person that he is and the negativity that he carries with him, I honestly believe that that's part of the reason why I experienced some of the hardships that I've experienced in my life since I have been with him. Even like my position being eliminated, you know, from the company that I was working for 20 years. You know, I think back on things and it's just like, you know, I need to separate myself from him, because if I'm experiencing all of these bad things, I don't want it to continue. Yeah, I need to get him out of my life. I need no more attachments to him. And because I honestly believe that. And, you know, even with other things that's happened, you know, I went from a 6-figure salary, you know, down to not that, you know, and at the end of the day, it was just like, okay, my whole lifestyle has just changed. You know, I gave up a beautiful home, you know, in Farmington Hills, listening to him, you know, to go and do something different when he had a hidden agenda altogether, you know. So it's just like walking away from all that you had worked so hard for. And I won't say walking away from it, but it being taken away from me is a hard pill to swallow. You know, when I look at myself, you know, sometimes, and I don't feel that way now, but for a period of time, it was like I found myself getting into a state of depression because of everything that I was going through. But, you know, at the end of the day, one of the things that helped me was, or is, my faith and trust in God. Even though, you know, I felt like I was at a place of being lost, I still have enough in me to fight my way through, because I am a fighter. And that is what helped me to even be here right now, to even tell my story, you know. But I you know, God knows what we need, you know, and when we need it. And I know he saw my struggle, and he saw my struggle, you know, in reference to trying to move forward, but not understanding why. Because for me, it was just, I'm not a white person, but I just couldn't understand how a person like me could experience what I experienced, you know, because of, you know, my faith in God, my relationship with God, because I don't just talk about God, but I actually have a relationship with him. You know, how could I, you know, experience the hardship this great hardship that I experienced? I just didn't understand that. And, you know, it was just a struggle for me to move forward. And it was just like, I was at like, God, please help me. I promise you, I'm not trying to stay here. I'm like, this is what I'm literally saying. I'm not trying to stay here. Help me get out of this, you know, the state of mind. And it was just like, it was a struggle. And I never forget, a good friend of mine, we hadn't talked in years. One, because our lives took us, you know, down different paths. You know, he ended up getting married, and I respected his, you know, relationship with his wife and everything. And so, you know, we just, you know, cut ties, you know, from each other. But I had learned that his father had passed away last year in September, and I, you know, said I was going to go and support him. And that was like one of the first times I think that I really got out and engaged with people outside of my comfort zone, because at that point in time I wasn't really trying to interact with anybody.
You really weren't, not even family.
No, nobody.
Which was totally different for us, because you really weren't.
Because I was hiding. Yeah. I was hiding. You know, again, family don't know the story that I just told. You know, so if they watch this video, they'll know everything. Yeah. And so, you know, I did, you know, go to the funeral, and I was sitting in the car. because I had gotten there a little bit early, and I was waiting for my aunt and my uncle to get there. So as I was sitting in the car, a few cars pulled up in the parking lot, and his car pulled up, one of my good friends, but I didn't know it was his car because I hadn't seen him in years. So I saw my aunt and my uncle. So when they came in, I was sitting in my car trying to get their attention. As I'm trying to get their attention, I look over, and my friend had gotten out of his car. And so he's looking, and I'm looking, and so we're looking at each other. And so he looks, and he was like, look real good. And he was like, Tasha? And I rolled down the window. I'm like, yes, me. And it was just like he came over, and, he hugged me and everything. And we talked, and, it was just like a breath of fresh air. I just shared that information there just to say that relationship with him, and we've been knowing each other for 30 years. His friendship with me is what has helped me to get to where I am today. Mr. Augusta George Jr. He literally has been a strong support system for me in reference to me even being able to take one step at a time, in reference to me just, living my life and getting myself back on track. He has done a lot for me in a lot of different ways. And I was just telling him this the last time I was over here, that I don't even think he realizes the impact that he's had on my life, because I was at a place of just not moving. I was just standing still. He helped me to start walking again, and I am so grateful for that. He is a person where he's always said, no matter what, he would always be there for me, and he has truly showed himself strong 30 years later, still, and I remember his wife telling me one time, she was like, he told me that, and I was like, what are you doing? You don't tell your wife that? No, your wife comes first, and so right. I care for him enough to let our friendship go, because he was married, and unfortunately things with his marriage did not work out without me having anything to do with that.
You were living your life, he was living his.
I didn't even know that he was divorced. He's been divorced now, this year will be 8 years. I didn't even know that.
Okay.
Until I saw him at his dad's funeral. But I just said all of that to say that, God knows what you need and when you need it, and he sent him back into my life at a point in time when I really needed someone that I could truly trust, to be in my corner. And my birthday was May 22nd. I turned 51 years of age.
Look at you!
Yes, I'm excited about that.
I know that's right.
Yes. And on my Facebook page, he literally went out on my Facebook page and put a post out there. And it was like, I remember saying, it was like he gave his confession of love for me in public, and I've never had that before. It's like he has nothing to hide. I mean, it was just like, it's okay for the whole world to know that he loves me, and he's going to be by my side forever and a day, is what he said. And that really blessed me, because I'm like, wow, is this what true love really feels like? Because I don't know what it feels like. What I thought I knew, obviously, I did not know. And so from that, it's helped me again to start walking. But, I am working, and I do love what I do. I've always been in sales and marketing, and I am, getting my feet wet back again, Yeah. And it's just, again, like one day at a time. It's like, I'm happy. I smile more. I laugh more. I'm not depressed. I'm not standing still.
Right.
And it's only by the grace of God, in everything that I have shared, ordering my steps and everything. One thing I knew is that I could not give up on myself, and I for sure could not give up on God. Again, I hope this story is a testimony or testament to anyone who has an ear to hear and a heart to receive. Please ask all questions up front. Make sure that you know what's what. Like I said, I didn't know that I was his fourth wife. That was not something that I was aware of. When we went down to get our marriage license, that's not what he put down in reference to how many times he had been married. So again, I'm going by what I thought I knew, but he even lied on that. So at the end of the day, no question is a dumb question. Ask everything, and then get to know the family. If they not hanging out with their family members, if something's wrong with their family members, find out why. Because it may not be them. It could be him or her. So ask all the questions that you can, up front. Don't be so anxious. Take your time. pray about it, pay attention. You do whatever you need to do to make sure that who you are going to commit the rest of your life to is that person that is worthy of you spending all of your time with.
Really, you have to just know what you know. And again, if it don't work out, if you are in a relationship that doesn't work out, there is a light at the end of that tunnel. Don't get stuck and just stay there and figure it's the end of the world for you. I am so glad. I'm glad you're back here. Sorry that stuff didn't work out, but the fact that you're back, you're happy, you're prospering, God is still first and foremost in your life. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. So
it's a great thing.
We love you and glad you're back, sweetie.
Well, as our glasses kiss.
I know. Yeah, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing for sure. But again, we go through things in relationships, and like you're saying, hopefully somebody is encouraged and touched, and we don't want to, don't be in despair. It does get better. And if you are in a place that you're not sure, just continue to pray and ask God to help you and lead you and guide you. And just hope that all is well.
All is well.
And I think she's great now. She's in the aftermath of the foolishness.
Yes.
And she's seen her happiness on the other side. And it's all a process.
It's all a process. But I also don't want to forget to say thank you to Jay Lee, because had Jay Lee not asked me to do this would never have happened. It's because it's something that I thought about doing, but I didn't really want to do it, and I didn't want to do it if it was going to come across as bashing, because that was not my intent whatsoever, and it's still not my intent. But the fact that she just opened up and asked me,
out of the blue, right? You're like surprised.
You weren't talking about it, not because I have a thing where when I'm sitting with people, I listen a lot, and I just watch them, and something said to me, and I said that day. Because that day, I did not plan to leave the house.
Right, you weren't planning to be here at
all. The books I had on Poshmark sold. The scale, the way it was here.
Right.
I threw on the dress real quick. Didn't come here. Came over real quick. Mom gonna grab and leave. Didn't leave. Veronica and Tasha came back to the house, and we was just sitting there talking. And as we was talking, and I don't even think it was about anything.
It was right. It was just
it was a conversation.
It was
and I was like, would you ever want to just, talk on, and I do that to people a lot. I do that a lot to people just to figure out who is, who wants to have open conversation. Because I keep saying how there are so many things that women don't discuss because you feel like, I don't want anybody to know that I went through this, and you feel a bit of not shame, but like humiliation
or embarrassment, maybe something
that you went through, something that you did not see yourself going through. And then it's like, if I tell someone, will they make think of it as gossip? Will they want to be, It's like, no. It's like we have to sometimes tell people, you may marry someone who deceives you and you had no idea. Even though you saw little signs, you wasn't thinking about them as signs. You just thinking, that's my husband, he on the phone. It's not a sign until you have seen, okay, you did this. That was a sign back there. So I'm like, sometimes people don't realize the conversation that if you have it up front, someone else may think about it. Like, what, I remember that girl Tasha said this, and this, and I'm going through that too. Let me just kind of think about what I'm doing in my life too. And not only that, someone who's maybe sitting in the despair of their divorce, and they're still in a depressed, sad, lost space, and they may think, I will never find love again, I will never smile, I'll never be happy.
You will.
I'm smiling.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy.
Yes.
And this, so I'm going to, we are going to I want to have consistent conversations about things that all of us may have been through, whether it's divorce, widow, separated,
single,
broken
up, I'm mad at you today,
but I like you tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It happens. And even, everything is a process. Because we had a whole conversation off camera with my cousin. It should have been a conversation off camera.
It really should have been.
But it's like, it's conversation that people may not want to have, but you need to have, because the person may not even understand that they may not have a purpose in life.
Yeah.
Or they may be, how when Veronica said, she didn't think she was inspirational because she just talks and says stuff
and she's so
because it's her. And I'm like, girl, but she don't think it because she just being herself.
Yeah.
So to her, she's an inspirational person by nature, but she don't think of that title with her name. I'm like, people don't have those conversations about, you know what, you are very, so it's that kind of thing. So it's gonna be more. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna title this thing. I don't know yet.
I know, right? You'll come up with something.
I don't know. I know you'll come up with something good.
I know it's gonna be story time.
Yeah.
Because a story time is usually stuff I say about me, but I think this people have story time, so it'll be Tasha story time.
A question. Okay, and I have a question on this, which would be its own story time too, only because you started off in the beginning with saying your relationship started with online dating. Mm-hmm. This would be a whole different topic one day, but just the ins or not necessarily the ins or out. I'll just ask this question: Are you in support of online dating, or do you think that's an okay thing overall?
Well, I can't say no, and I won't say yes, I won't say no. Okay, I'll just say whatever you do, pray about it. Yeah. And make sure that you're hearing clearly the Holy Spirit telling you which way to go. That's what I'll say.
Because sometimes you can meet somebody in person and they're crazy.
It could have easily happened that way also.
Yes.
But I just wonder, because you always hear the good, the bad, or the yes or no, people for it or against it.
I would just say the same rule applies no matter who it is and how you meet them. Do your homework. Because meeting them online versus meeting them, face to face, same behavior,
right.
So just don't be so anxious, and I'm not saying that I was anxious,
right?
But at the end of the day, take your time, ask your questions, get to meet the family, get to, observe the, mama, daddy, siblings, kids, because, one thing I did not share is that, like I said, this one son asked me, why my dad? But my stepdaughter, with whom I'm so grateful that we have a very good relationship with. I have a great relationship with her as well as my granddaughter. That was a blessing that I got out of the marriage, is that I do have a daughter that he had with somebody else, but we established our own really good relationship, and she had a baby during my relationship with him, so she's my granddaughter. So I'm forever grateful for them. But one of the things she said to me, because she was like, my dad is not good for you, so when the kids are talking, something's wrong, and she was like, you need to move on, he's not good for you. Those are red flags as well. So again, just pay attention, get to know the family, and you
ask those hard questions too. I ask the hard questions of the family. They got anything in their background I should know about? Something he may not have told me.
You have a lot of opportunities on your own. You can go online and pull up some stuff because at the end of the day, when I couldn't find out where he lived, I found out where he lived.
See?
You can find out all the information you want to know. Anybody, they got a couple of different avenues online. You got to pay a little bit for it.
Okay,
but I tell you, it's worth the while. Yep.
You can figure out what you need to know.
Yes.
But to end this on a positive note, what's the takeaway from all of this, Tasha, for the Jaybirds and the rest of the folks watching?
I think we already kind of sort of covered it. It's just in reference to relationships. Again, like I say, do your homework. Do your homework. Get to know not just that person, but get to know their family. The people that they hang around. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Of him or her, as well as the people that matter the most to them in their lives. And if somebody's not around and they living, but they ain't hanging around them, you want to find out why. So again, I would just say, be honest with yourself. Help yourself by doing what you need to do up front, because you can't say you didn't know, especially if I'm telling you.
At the end of it, you happy now.
Very happy.
That whole storm is over.
Yeah.
Thank God.
It's over. It's over. I tell you, March 27th was the day that I will always appreciate, because I turned over a new leaf, and I'm walking a different walk, and I'm talking a different talk. And I'm able to talk about this. So, again, all is well.
Yay!
Yay!
Happy about that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Tasha.
And thank y'all for pulling me out of my shell to do this. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying to be engaging.
Oh, no, you are.
And we have all the time, so whenever you're free, you got some moments of, you always free to come back and have any conversation.
Oh, thank you, darling.
We're exactly. We're trying to help the masses as we help ourselves. They say confession is good for the soul or something. So as we talk and go through things that we don't share, I think it is good to talk. Yes. And it helps you, and then it can bring help to a whole lot of other folks. And that's a part of the mission and purpose for us, right?
Yes, it is. It is.
Definitely.
Oh, I love
Thank
this.
y'all for watching. And until next time, I am Jay Lee. That's my mama, my family.
Hey,
and that's my cousin Tasha.
Hey now.
You know, and we'll talk y'all later.
All right.
Peace.